Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame video today. This time round we're going to be looking at some Israeli units, and basically we're going to have some in-depth discussion about what each unit does and what their stats are and what's likely to change. Now you have to remember that this is on the beta patch, so all of the units are likely to change in some way or another in terms of their statistics, but their role will probably stay the same, which is kind of what we're going to go through in this video. So I hope you guys enjoy. So what sort of recon units are we looking at with the Israelis?
So the Israelis actually have a really nice recon tab. Definitely one of the better ones in the game, I'd say. And let's take a look first at these Bedouins. If I'm not mistaken, these guys are a first. They're a 5-man recon squad with no RPG. Instead, they have the M14 DMR. So that's a 1050 meter range rifle.
Yeah, I really like that M14. I think it's great. It has like a 15 round per minute rate of fire, which is actually all right, and the 95% accuracy means this thing like never misses, of course. And I just found this squad absolutely fantastic for like town defense against infantry. What other sort of roles have you found it useful for? It's pretty good out in the open, I found.
Yeah, the thing I found about the Bedouins that I really like is obviously it's got very good stealth, so it's good in towns like you mentioned because it can fire out without being spotted unless they have recon. But also, I think this is like the ultimate recon infantry killer because, for example, if you have a look at the Maglans, and the same with most elite combat recon, none of them have that 1050 meter range. I think only the Spetsnaz crew, as like a 10-man elite unit, have a rifle. There are some shock ones with DMR, but like the majority of recon squads, like combat recon, elite recon, have MGs. And the Bedouins are really nice because you can, you spot them at that 1050 meter range a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that means you can kill off the squad, and if your opponent doesn't notice as well, there's nothing they can do. The Bedouins just keep firing from, they outrange MGs of any MG squad. And as long as your opponent doesn't notice, which honestly, if you've got a lot going on, a lot of people probably won't, even the sort of better players really, won't notice your squad being whittled down one by one because they won't be able to see the Bedouins a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, and if you can't see them, you can't hear their shots being fired, so you don't even get the sound. So yeah, the Bedouins are really cool, I think, and one thing that I think we should touch on is the fact that they can come in the Ram Recce, which is same as the Maglan squads. The Israelis are like the first recon tab to be able to bring in recon infantry in a recon vehicle. Is that the case?
Kind of. I mean, they are technically the first, but they also changed it so now a few other vehicles can have recon stats, like the American V150, I think it's called, or something like that. You know, the one that the
yeah, indeed, yeah,
Delta Force come in, but yeah, you can bring.
So they basically introduced the fact that other sort of armored light vehicles have good optics, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. It's really nice. I think it's really nice to sort of have a little bit of that sort of extra versatility. Because it's like you're getting 2 recon units for the price of 1. And the thing about the Bedouins as well is because they're like cheap, they work quite well as sort of a spammy recon unit almost, where you can sort of dot them around the map. You wouldn't expect them to sort of defend themselves that well unless they're sort of in a town with some support.
Yeah, so the best
like
thing,
quite a cheap little one.
Yeah, like you said, the availability. If you bring in like the Bedouins in the Ram Recce, you can get 9 Ram Recces and Bedouin squads. So you're, like you said, the 2 for 1, and it's just really nice sort of efficient card to get a lot of those small recon vehicles that can be incredibly useful around the map. Anyway, shall we move on to the HVMS? Now this thing is actually quite good. I mean, I'm annoyed that it doesn't have any HE power. But the best thing about this is it's a really good APC killer. It's got 1,925 meter range at the moment, 60% accuracy, and 29 rounds per minute, which is pretty awesome for a main gun.
Well, this is again, this benefits from the stealth, the medium stealth statistic. So I've killed like BUs and Makeva 3Ds with this just from the side because people don't realize that it's firing at them a lot of the time. I think to me, the role of this unit is like the ultimate enemy recon APC killer. You know, like the BRDM3 and stuff like that. This will just kill them. It will rip straight through. because that accuracy is just really nice, and the range obviously as well. So yeah, it serves a sort of niche purpose almost, because it's not as multi-role as the other ones. It's a bit slower as well because it's mechanized, but in the right sort of situation, this can do a lot of damage, I think.
Yeah, and for those of you who are wondering what the hell this is, well, it's basically just a gun turret on an M113. Which is
Something,
awesome.
Gavin.
Yeah, so let's move on to the M325 Patrol. This is just a pretty simple Recon Jeep, 30 points, has the very good optics, 100 km/h speed off-road is actually pretty nice, and comes with 3 machine guns, but it's probably not going to see combat very often. It's only got 5 strength and no armor, so that thing would die very easily to enemy infantry and stuff. So not something you're going to be bringing in too often, I believe, unless you really want an extra very good optic unit. But moving on from that, we have the Maglans, and I know you have a lot to say about these, Val.
I do. I think these at the moment at 40 points are probably the best cost, like the best bang for your buck unit in the entire game. They're the first elite 10-man recon squad to have an actual decent HVMS. So 2,450 meter range, 65 AP and 21 AP power. And the reason these guys are so good is because their infantry capability is really good. Like the Negev and the Galleon, I think it's just a Galil, right? Like a different Galil.
Yeah.
They're pretty formidable weapons, and they can trade pretty well with enemy infantry of all standards. Anything that's not a specific anti-infantry unit like Spetsnaz or Corps Marinaires, I guess you could probably describe in that. This is going to have like a good showing against them.
Yeah, the best thing about the Maglan, is like you said, the Spike MR. But the fact that they have the Glilon with the 355 rounds per minute, and then the Negev with the 595 or 94 rounds per minute is just insane versus infantry. And if you have these like doubled up in squads in like towns, there's pretty much nothing that can beat them like 2-on-2. And then, like I said, the Spike MR. What do you think of that thing? Like, that's just a beast.
Well,
I mean, we talked about it in the infantry.
It's great. I mean, the big thing about it is that these guys have very good stealth. As you would expect with any 10-man elite recon unit. What that means is, like, people can't see that spike. They can't see the unit unless you have recon really close when it fires. And, like, for example, I played a game against Bullbox. I don't know if he'll upload that or not, but it was a mud fight, and I controlled... there's like the 2 towns in it. There's the smaller town with the crossroads, and then the other town, which is a bit bigger. I managed to capture both of those. And I just had Maglans, 1 in each, and then it was like the Valley of Death in between. Like, there was nothing he could do. Every time he tried to push up tanks, these Maglans would just kill them.
Yeah.
Then he tried to fight them with infantry, and that didn't work either, because their Negev and the Galleon's really good. So I think even if they increase this to 50 points, I would still take these in a deck. I'd say take 2 cards of these all the time, personally.
I think the fantastic thing about the Maglans as well is not just the fact that they have the very good stealth and the HGM, they also have very good recon, like optics, and an HGM. So they can spot their own targets. You don't need separate recon to do that like you would if you brought a separate HGM squad. So that's like another great thing about the Maglans. Also, you can bring them in all sorts of APCs, including the Ram Recce, so you can get those extra recon vehicles if you need them. But the big price point is the Nimrod. You can bring them in that Nimrod. We covered that in the infantry tab with the special forces there. But basically a very strong HGM helicopter with a 2,975 meter range does cost an awful lot. But the thing I like about bringing the Nimrod with the Maglan is the fact that you're bringing them in a veteran or elite.
Yeah, the veterancy bonus for the infantry is super nice because, if you consider that ATGM has 70% accuracy base, then you put elite on top of that, that's pretty much never going to miss.
Yeah, so it's just fantastic really for that,
good.
Indeed. Let's move on to the Ram AT. This is basically the Ram Recce, but instead it has a recoilless 3 HE power. What do you think about this little thing?
It's actually, honestly, it's not too bad. Now, obviously, it suffers the same thing as most recoilless rifles. It has pretty poor accuracy. I know it says it says blue 30%, but that's just compared to other recoilless rifles. 30% is pretty woeful as far as accuracy goes in this game. I mean, I wouldn't put one in my deck, but there's definitely use for it because, again, it has that medium stealth. It can fly from cover without being seen, and 3 HE is nothing to scoff at. So there's some nice little sort of cloaked support units, if you want to call them that, where you can support a push into a town from cover.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make actually, though, about the fact that it comes up as like blue. It's very misleading a lot of the time on the unit statistics. So yeah, it's saying blue accuracy 30%, and you look at that and you just scan over it and you go, oh, that's amazing, but it's actually 30%. So just make sure you check those numbers when you're checking these units, because that's something that can definitely catch you out. And then we got obviously the RAM TCM, which is basically just an upgrade. Has the very good optics instead of the normal good optics. And comes with that 20mm double machine gun on the back side of it, or I guess is it machine gun? Yeah, it basically is a machine gun.
Autocannon
anti-air. Yeah, it says 20mm, so it makes me want to say it's an autocannon. I guess it is, but 2,450 meter range against helicopters, 913 rounds per minute. This thing could do some serious damage to some helicopters if it had enough time on target, but it's not particularly what you're going to be using it for. And I mean, it's got decent speed like the other Rams, which is great.
The big problem with this is, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I might be wrong on this, but from sort of little tests that I've done, I think this is the case, that even with medium stealth, it still gets detected when firing just because of the noise. Like, there's a secret stat in game for noise of weapons. And if I'm not mistaken, like AA pieces, like this twin autocannons, have a higher noise than like stealth guns, the guns on medium stealth tanks. So I do believe these do get spotted when they fire, as opposed to like other units that won't be discovered when they fire unless the enemy has recon. So I mean, I would say personally I wouldn't take it, just because you're adding 25 points on for just the very good optics, and 50 points a pop. I just don't think it's worth it, considering the combat stats are pretty mediocre, really.
Yeah, the other thing is that you don't necessarily need to bring any RAM separately when you're going to have the RAM recce's with your infantry most of the time. So that's another thing that kind of makes them a bit redundant. Anyway, let's move on to the Sci-Fun, which is just your standard Kiowa, very good Recon helicopter. The thing that was disappointing to me about Israel is they didn't have like a 6 health Recon helicopter, and there's quite a big sort of difference between 4 health, which basically always gets one shot by an infrared AA.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like you said, this is just your bog standard 45 point Recon chopper, and pretty slow. It's got 4 health, and 4 health, like you said, that's a big break point, because a lot of it are like manpad squads only have 5 HE and below. There's only a few of them, I think, that actually have 6. So a 6 HE heli will usually, survive 2 shots, but this one will just go down in 1. And
yeah, it's pretty miserable.
What can you say? Yeah, just a pretty woeful Recon chopper.
Then finally we have the Tyran 5 Blazer. What do you think about this little thing?
I mean, it's not bad. It's the same as every other Recon tank, really, where it has it has the medium stealth stat. It can fire from cover without being seen most of the time. But personally, I wouldn't take it over the HVMS, because yes, it can hit infantry. It does have that 3 HE, but really, I just think it's not really worth the slot. The HVMS is just better because it's much more efficient at killing enemy AP, like Recon APCs. And this tank, like the AP, is not high enough for me to really think, this is worth the slot. But I mean, they have their uses. Let's not lie to ourselves about that one. They have their uses, and they can be good in decks. But I'd personally not take this unless I had like a free slot I didn't know what to do with.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, let's move on to the vehicles now. So first of all, we've got the Japaz Orev, which is 2,625 meter standard tow on a Jeep. I mean, it's pretty normal 20-point unit with 90 km/h speed off road. Not too bad. I mean, standard. You probably wouldn't bring it.
8 missiles, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bring it for sure, but I mean, it's just a standard tow carrier.
Yeah, and then you got the ITO on the Humvee for the Hamer Orev with the 60% accuracy and 20 AP power. You sort of maybe getting a bit better with that, but it's nothing compared to the Hamer Mapats, which comes with a 2,800 meter HGM with 60% accuracy and 22 AP power. It's quite a nice upgrade, and it is a prototype unit for Israel. What do you think about that?
So I really like this unit, and I mean a TOW 2. So this is like a weird altered TOW 2 variant. The TOW 2 standard actually has slightly more AP. It has 25, I think. But I think getting that 2,800 meter range, that's a really important breakpoint, because up until this DLC, Blue 4 was always behind in the ATGM field. Red 4 just has better ATGMs across the line, from that really amazing WZ550 from China to like just even BMP3s with the 2,800 meter range Arcans. And Blue 4, they do suffer from that. They really do. And that's why Red 4 before had some, could do really well in sort of open field scenarios where they could just keep popping the ATGMs off from out of enemy tank gun range. But now with Israel being added, Blue 4 has some really nice options for that sort of 2,800 meter range plus ATGM engagement zone. And the Mapats is really nice for 50 points. It's a really good unit.
Yeah, some of the Israeli units are very potent, but unfortunately this one being prototype, you're not going to see it in any mixed decks anytime soon. But let's move on to the giraffes with the TOW and the ITO variant. They're basically the same weapons we're seeing on the Japaz and the Hamer, but they come on M113s, so armored variants. I guess you might take them, or the giraffe TOW for the amphibious nature of it, but honestly probably not. They're too slow to be very effective in that situation, and that one armor on the normal giraffe doesn't make too much of a difference. The giraffe ITO with 2 front armor and 2 side armor could come in handy, I guess.
Well, I think the thing is that, you mentioned amphibious. The regular TOW launch is the only amphibious one, and the base TOW is honestly terrible. It's really not worth bringing. But the ITO one is, just get a Mapats. If you're gonna buy an ATGM here for like a sort of cheaper price than the Per and the Hafiz, which we'll cover in a second, I'd say just get the Mapats. Yeah.
So like you're saying, the Hafiz and the Perah. So we'll start with the Hafiz. This thing has 2,975 meter range, 50% accuracy, 27 AP power, and the best thing I think about this unit is the fact it's not even prototype.
Yep.
So this
100%.
is gonna be on a lot of mixed decks because of that extended range of the HGM. It's also got 2 front and 2 side armor, which is also very nice as well. What do you think about this?
I absolutely love this. I've been having so much fun with this in my mixed blue mechanized deck I've been playing around with. And I mean, even in the Israeli deck, I take this over the Perah because, it has 10% less accuracy in half the missiles. I mean, 12 I think is still plenty though. I found that I'm, if I run out of those 12 missiles without being able to resupply it in time, there's something really fishy going on. So I think just the fact it's cheaper, I think it's a bit more cost effective when you look at it. It's just a really nice unit. Like you said, that 2,975 meter range is fantastic. And the fact it's not even prototype, this should be prototyped, I think, 100%. I don't get why the Mapats is prototyped and then the Hafiz isn't, so maybe a change they should put in.
Yeah, that would be quite a nice change. But one thing that I think we should note is the fact that the reload time is really off-putting with this unit. It actually fires a lot quicker than that 20-second reload time, doesn't it?
Well, the way it works in clips. So you see, and this is the same with other ATGM vehicles, it has 6 launchers on the model. That means it fires 6 missiles very quickly and then reloads, and the reload takes quite a long time. Another thing to note about this missile is it's really fast. I think it's the same speed as the ADATS. It's like the fastest ground-based ATGM. So it's often, interestingly enough, it's going to win a trade with an enemy ATGM vehicle if they get into range, because you'll hit them first.
Yeah.
And obviously the way that guided works, if you hit them first, you panic them, and then they have a bigger chance of missing their missiles. That's if you don't kill them with 27 AP. So.
Yeah, which is more than likely. Anyway, we have the Perah next, which is basically kind of an upgrade. I mean, the thing is, it is an upgrade, but it costs 30 points more. And what you're paying for is an extra 10% accuracy, an extra 12 missiles, and an increase in armor. What do you think about that in terms
No.
of the plus 30 points.
Honestly, like I said, I actually think the Hafiz is probably a bit more worth it.
Yeah.
Because you get more of them. Well, I mean, I would take both of these hardened, personally. Just because actually hitting those missiles is really important with this unit. But, you know, it's not like you can spam them out somewhere, so I think having the veterancy is a bit more useful on these. But, you know, the Perah, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic unit. It's really good. The armor's nice because it means it can sort of survive where the Hafiz might not. But considering it has the same top armor, and a lot of the time the one thing this is going to be at risk from is artillery, I don't think it's enough of an upgrade to warrant taking it over the Hafiz with 30 points. Because yes, it has 24 missiles. Yes, I mean, another thing to note is it does have a 12 round clip. You know, we just mentioned with the Hafiz with 6 rounds before it reloads. The Perah can fire 12, but again, you know, I just, it's a great unit. I just personally would take the Hafiz just because I think it's a bit more cost efficient.
I think the other thing is that 6 front armor isn't much when this thing's going to be facing off at max range red 4 HGMs. Like, it doesn't really make a difference whether you have 6 front armor or 1 front armor when the other enemy HGM's going to have over 20 AP easily. But yeah, that's about it for those HGM units.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the last unit of the vehicle tab, which is the M51I Sherman, or the Super Sherman, didn't you say it was?
I think this is the Super Sherman. That's like what the sort of name for it is. But yeah, the M51. So,
definitely has an interesting muzzle on the model. But 1,925 meter range, pretty standard for a 15-point unit with a gun. 45% accuracy, 9 AP power, 3 HE power. What do you really think of this? It's a very cheap, sort of spammable unit, but is it really worth it? I think in an Israeli deck, probably not.
Well, I mean, is he? I mean, I guess that does have some use, but really, I'd say you should take this in an Israeli only deck, but in like a general deck, there's much better options. Because one thing Israel sort of has, well, not trouble with. Trouble is the wrong word, but one thing that this sort of the niche this fills is long range cheap fire support. Because yes, Israel gets all these amazing transports, but they only have MGs that, you know, are either close range, and the Makeva, which is, you know, the other sort of strong fire support unit they have, is 80 points. So while it is great for that, you know, you also generally can't afford that many. So this is sort of, it's one of those units you can sort of spam out onto the field, and it's fine, I guess, but its autonomy is really bad. It's gonna
speed.
Yeah, the speed is really bad. The autonomy is really bad. The armor's really bad. I mean, 3 front armor is okay against infantry, but against enemy armored vehicles, it's just gonna get mowed down in 1 or 2 shots. So I don't know.
Pretty average unit.
Yeah,
just
very
like you
average.
say, it just fills that void of like long range support with a like main gun as opposed to machine guns. But yeah, that's about it for vehicles and recon then.